What let me read this disclosure before. Oh wait, now my microphone's on. Let me read this disclosure quick before we look at Netflix. I'm an associated member of T3 Trading Group, which is an SEC registered broker-dealer, and member of FINRA SIPC. You should carefully consider whether trading is suitable for you in light of your own financial condition. Here is my position disclosure. No new swings. Did trade a couple names today, but no new swings. What's Netflix doing? Netflix is up. First FANG name of the season. Thanks, Robert. I appreciate that. I'm going to bring that up in a second because you're right. Pat was supposed to remind me, and he didn't. If anybody has the YouTube link, I don't know if Pat just got up. If anybody has the YouTube link and they can post it in here, I'd appreciate it. So Netflix EPS $3.19 beats the 250. That's a solid beat. Beats the 256 estimate. Sales. It says sales beat the estimate, but the number's the same. Sales 7.4. Oh, it's a very. No, it's the same number. Sales 7.48 billion beat the 7.48 billion estimate. That doesn't make sense to me. Something's missing on that second number. Netflix Q3 streaming paid net change is a beat also. That's a good one for them to beat. Thanks, KP. All right, so Netflix is up right now, so that definitely should bode well for the futures for tomorrow. So assuming that this holds up, it's not a huge move, but assuming that this holds up, it's a higher probability of a gap up than a gap down tomorrow. But with that said, this market is so extended. It's absolutely crazy here. We're up another 0.85% today in the SPYs, another 0.83% in the Qs, and the Russell, surprisingly, given what the TLT was doing, was a little relatively weak here to be up 0.4%. TLT real quick, down. Interest rates are up. TLT down 1.25%. So usually that would lead to relative weakness for tech. That would be the thought process there, and relative strength for IWM, financials, energy, but that is not the case today, and we could talk about it in a second. We saw a lot of speculation coming into the speculative names, right? A lot of those stocks were catching real bids into the close. Let's circle back to that. I'll start with our big picture technicals here of the market. We were extended this morning pre-market, and we gapped up. It was a common gap higher, and we went up all day today. One of the first things I did pre-market, and luckily I got good enough moves to be able to cover risk, was the first thing I really was doing pre-market was shorting the TQQQ to hedge out my longs because of the degree of extension here. We were pretty extended coming into today. We're really extended as of today's close, but an extended market can always become more extended. We know this. Usually, an extended market becomes more extended because there's high volume or news. Well, volume today was pretty weak. So someone asked me in the afternoon meeting yesterday about the lower volume as this market's moving higher. Am I concerned by it? I think it's something to take note of. It's not something I would say I'm concerned about. We don't have to have the market go down because it's going up on low volume. But it's interesting to see that even on a low volume day like today, we could get continuation and further extension to the upside after we were already extended. So I shorted some TQQQ versus pre-market highs, little bit off the open or a little bit pre-open here. I got a price of, I think my price was about 141.40 and change. So I had 50-60 cents risk. My out was going to be the pre-market highs, which is 142 on the dot. And really the only reason I took that was because we rolled over here pre-market, and I've got a long portfolio and the market's extended. So I wanted to hedge myself out a little bit. We got a decent downtick to low of 140.28, so I was able to take some stock off into that move. It was about a little over $1 in the money at lows today. And then we just went up and we made new highs, and You know, this is why you have stop losses in place. I don't like doing, and I've done this in the past, it's only ever cost me money. There have been times in the past where I look at a market like this and I go, oh man, it's really extended and I'm really long. So let me short with no out. Let me short some of the indices with no stop loss on it just to hedge my portfolio. And then what ends up happening is you just bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed and bleed. Luckily I stopped myself out on this break of this 142 here on this bar, so I did not have to endure the next, dollar plus in pain to the upside as this incredibly strong market continued to work its way higher for the SPYs and the Qs, and now the Qs are up even more after hours because of the Netflix earnings report. So yeah, just incredible strength. The IWM here has been relatively weak and was relatively weak again today, which is surprising to me given the move in the TLT. But even with the relative weakness in the IWM, we have a close above 225. The Russell's back in bull territory. The SPYs still holding well above 445. That's bull territory. Qs, bull territory now, right? Qs were the laggard because they had been relatively weak really since mid-August, but they've shown strength the last 4 trading sessions compared to the IWM. And now even the NASDAQ is back in bull territory. So don't fight a bull market. You pay attention to degrees of extension, and that could tell you to look to hedge out your portfolio, or it could tell you to be cautious on longs. And I think that's what the market was telling us today. And the gap up into the extension, I think, made it very difficult to do any buying in correlated names. And potentially you could have looked to put some shorts on to hedge yourself. So that's what I was doing. Took some long exposure off the table today into this move higher. Tried to short TQQ, got some kicks and got stopped out, and that's pretty much it. We had some really good call-outs again, though. The first name that I wrote down, the number one name on my list today, was Baba. I ended up not getting involved in it just because I got a lot on my long portfolio that was concerning. But we spoke about Baba yesterday, actually, but it didn't give any follow-through for a break of basically 170, and then yesterday it gave an inside day. This moving average caught up, so I really like what this Baba chart pattern is looking like, and it gave a breakaway gap today above 170. So the initial call out in the morning meeting was to be long Baba versus 170 or versus yesterday's high, which is 169.25. So if anybody got stock here, it was a great move. The concern was the degree of the gap up made this thing really extended. So a lot of times when that happens, I don't like using the opening low as my stop loss because you have a higher probability of getting shaken out of a trade that works. But even on this one, if you use the opening low, I know this pullback here was a little bit frightening, but it didn't even break the opening low by just a little bit, and then it gave beautiful upside continuation here for the rest of the day, closing at 177. Alibaba's looking pretty good again. It has reversed the downtrend that it was in finally, and it's working its way higher. I've been saying for a while I feel like this thing is a value play at this point. So definitely a really solid trade there. And then basically next on my list was this CHPT, specifically because it got upgraded and it had a chart pattern here that had it not too extended. So $20 was the breakout level. This is also a breakaway gap above $20 because of the upgrade. So that was putting it in play. And again, why do I like Alibaba? Because it's Chinese and it can have a lesser correlation in the market when I'm concerned about the market. Why do I like CHPT today? Because it got an upgraded. That upgraded can have it be lesser correlated to the market. You have to be really quick on this one to get it. I know a few of us missed it, including myself. You have to be paying attention to CHPT the second the market opened. And the second the market opened, I actually got distracted by some of my swings, and that caused me to miss the execution on this one. But also perfect, right? This opening volume is exactly what you want to see. Breakaway gap above 20. You could have been long versus $20. You could have been long versus yesterday's high, or very quickly, you could have been long versus the opening low. And that was when I did type it up. It was a little slow. It was trading at like 20.50 something, and the call out at that point was you could still buy this just versus the low of the day at that point and take on your 30 cents worth of risk. And then it gave this beautiful momentum continuation, closed at highs. And a lot of these speculative names, so this is in the broad list of what I call speculative stocks. A lot of these types of names woke up in a big way today, and now they need to get on our radar. So CGC, look at the volume in this CGC. This is big. It's potentially breaking this descending channel that it's been in for a long time. The stock is brutalized. This was another one of the many companies that made a high in February, which I still tell people is the real peak of the market. This was the speculative peak of the market. This is when a lot of these stocks are bubbling. Worked its way from a crazy high of 56.50 down to $13 in more or less a straight downtrend. But look, the stock never belonged to $56 to begin with. So I think it's almost more realistic to look at a smaller picture. But even if you're looking at a smaller picture, if you're just going back a few months, the stock has grinded lower from the low 20s down to $13. It's still a disastrous down move. It's still a 50% down move just since May, right? So just absolutely gross. But look at the volume today. Look at the wake-up candle. And we saw that just with a lot of these broken names. Look at like Wish. This Wish, we took off our radar. We were trading this thing back into these movements a little bit when it caught this retracement higher off this like $8 bounce. I remember we were trading into there, and then it had a disaster earnings report. It's been disgusting ever since. I still really don't like it too much, but I think it's just notable that these stocks woke up today on a volume uptick. Root, which I do currently have a position in, this one woke up a little bit today too. Look at the intraday movement here. These all woke up at about the same time, around 3 o'clock today. That woke up. Skills tried to wake up around the same time here in the afternoon. So just some notable movements here in some of these stocks that were high-flying, super speculative names that are now just disgustingly beat up. Skills also put in its high back in February when the market peaked at $46.30, traded at $8 last week. So just absolutely destroyed. And same thing, even if you're just looking at a more reasonable picture, going back the last 3-4 months, this thing is still down 60-70%, even just from a high here in June. So it shows you just how beat up some of these stocks are, and that it's worth putting them on the radar. TDOC has been one that we've been speaking about a bunch of times recently here. Called it the buy on October 13th, called it the buy yesterday, called out another buy for today on the inside day high that could lead this back to 140. That's exactly what happened. Look at the volume increase on this, closed at 140. TDOC starts clearing 140, and I think that this thing's starting to look really good. So all that stuff, a whole bunch of things are worth noting. For myself, unfortunately, I definitely chose a wrong name. Like one of the only ones that I spoke about in the morning meeting that didn't work was the one that I happened to get involved in. This BEKE, we saw some option flow come into the close yesterday. Really tight looking pattern with the ADMA sitting on it. Inside day yesterday. So for all those reasons, I liked it on a break of yesterday's high. And I basically bought the high of the day in this. I have no problem admitting when I do that. It's healthy, right? Bought the high of the day. I got stopped out on this thing, relatively quickly. I lost like 30 cents on it, something like that. Just a straight loss. Obviously no kicks when you're buying the high of the day in a stock. So it is what it is. I bought the one that didn't work. It's not the first time that's ever happened to me. It's not going to be the last. The loss on it wasn't too bad, though obviously I hate losing money in anything ever. Yeah, that's pretty much it from the call-outs today, and that's kind of the notable price action. This market just so strong here. SPY's queues are becoming ridiculously extended, which definitely makes me nervous at this point to do any buying. But at the same time, I also think it is interesting that some of these speculative names that are down 50, 60, 70, 75% from their highs, depending on how far back you go, that were in bubbles last February, really woke up on some volume today. So I think we can potentially keep an eye on those into tomorrow. Like NNDM, I know someone brought up as well. Look at the volume in NNDM. You could pay attention to this tomorrow. 880 was a level on this that it broke out. So 3D printing names, marijuana names, obviously names like Plug have already been going. Fuel Cell has already been going. So it seems like some of these speculative names are waking up a little bit again, and that means we can bring them back on our radar as they potentially become in play. I think that's all I got. I think we basically covered it. So I'm happy to take a look at whatever you guys got, and happy to take a gander at any questions or a stab at any questions that you guys have. Where's that Netflix now? Still in the same area. Not really giving a fantastic move on that. Tilray still going? Yeah, Tilray, one of the big oh, look at Tilray today. Yeah, this was one of the big speculative names. I tried this. I was trying this here at 14. It feels like yesterday. I was trying this breakout at $14 on one of these days, and I got stopped out for a loss. And look at that. Look at that move. 30% downside in this thing since I just tried to buy this in September. That's why you have stops, right? That's why you have stops. Let alone when this thing was at $55 back in February when it really peaked out. It's down massive from there. Oh, thank you, Robert. Guys, I got to mention this really quick, and I wanted to mention this yesterday. Pat was supposed to remind me. I just wanted to give Pat a dirty look, but he's not sitting there. For the professional traders who are on the team at T3 Trading Group, I know most of you have this done already, but please make sure you have your annual affirmation done. All right? And also, I just want to remind you, if you're a professional trader with T3 Trading Group, you are licensed and regulated with the company. That means that FINRA is watching you. You gotta make sure there's certain things that you are required to do. All right? If you have a permanent address change, you need to let compliance know about your permanent address change within a month of you doing it. If you open or close a retail account, you need to let compliance know about that right away. Really, you're supposed to have pre-approval to do that. So you better let them know right away. If you take those types of actions and you don't let compliance know and you sit on it, you're opening yourself up potentially to FINRA fining you. Everyone should know these things. You guys are all licensed. You have to take the tests. So make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing as a registered professional trader at T3 Trading Group. And if you haven't gotten your annual affirmation done, get it done. All right. Thank you for reminding me on that. What is SESN? Sesson Bio? It's a biotech. I don't know. This thing got wrecked on something back here. It's always the biotechs, right? That go down, 90%. They're up 400% based on some news event. So I got no idea what this is, but definitely woke up and upticked here for a couple of days. Next here, Chingus, does the volume of the SPY represent the volume in the market or just the volume of the SPYs? It represents the volume of the SPYs, but it's representative of the volume in the market, if that makes sense. Next here from Steven, Tilray CGC, good to keep on the watch list tomorrow. Could the beginning of a new trend? Absolutely, Steven. That's what I just was going through. All those speculative names really woke up today on big volume, so we got to put them on the watch list for going forward. Baba probably, Baba and CHPT today were the trades of the day, so I hope you guys caught those. Oracle looked great on the daily chart here. Not really a momentum name usually, but nice looking bull flag. Good continuation off an inside day yesterday. It's the equilibrium area. Oracle's definitely one you could have on the radar for higher prices. It looks solid. It's not too extended. I'm going to be saying the exact same thing tomorrow morning, though. We'll see how the market gaps tomorrow, but for the most part, I'm going to be saying the same thing. This market's just so extended. I don't care. I don't care that the market still went higher versus where we opened. I still think that it's not responsible for consistent trading to come in and to have done aggressive buying off the open today. It's just not responsible trading in a market that's extended and doesn't have a setup. At this point, the extended market can become more extended. We know it's bullish, but I really think that if people have long on the brain, you want to already have those longs on, or you want to be patient, or you want to be doing something that's not market correlated, which maybe is those speculative names, right? Tilray, CGC, those names that we just went through, NNDM, Root, whatever. Those names can definitely have a lower correlation in the market when they start waking up. So maybe we are paying attention to those names tomorrow. We're going to be paying attention to earnings names for sure, because those stocks have lower correlations. Chinese names, CHPT like today. I'm assuming tomorrow morning we're going to have a very similar game plan tomorrow morning, regardless of how the market gaps compared to what we had today. It'll probably be very similar. Intel woke up. What did that SOXL do today? Yeah, SOXL giving continuation. I'm out of my swing in SOXL. But yeah, Intel $55 here. Let's see. Broke another resistance level. This has been the dog. you know, Intel and then more recently Micron have really been kind of the dog of the semiconductors. AMD's been a beast. I still have my AMD swing trade from this day here that we called out that's still giving great follow through. So we're gonna stick with that one for sure. But yeah, definitely good stuff to even see Intel waking up now. I know seasonal, as far as seasonality goes, the traditional weakness of the market is usually ending now, right? About now and into early November is when we usually start to see your Santa Claus rally type of things. Yeah, so that's that. FITB. Yeah, this fifth third. We talked about this in the morning meeting off the earnings report. I definitely was concerned about it being like a secondary type bank, a regional type bank. So I didn't even really look at this when the market actually opened up today. They sunk this right away. So once they sunk this right away, there was definitely no reason to really keep it on the radar. Stefan is a big fan of his IO. He had a position on it coming into yesterday, and he thinks it's interesting, and he, I think, is continuing to even add to his position into this up move, which is interesting. Correct me if I'm wrong on any of that. But now the ADMA caught up to yesterday's gap. I actually think that this IO could technically looks like it could give you further upside follow through on it. A little bit cheaper than what I usually like to get involved in, but I think it actually looks very intact, even though it's a cheaper stock. Stefan saying trades at 2.5x EBITDA and killed it for the third quarter earnings, which came out yesterday. Cool. I got stopped out on BEKE, yes. It was a very short day trade. I bought the high of the day, and I got stopped out within 5-10 minutes, something like that. Maybe he needs to come back on the trade list. Gabriel on Tilray. Which resistance level would you aim for a swing on CHPT? Do you mean as a target for CHPT? Sure. So there's some resistance at 22, but the bigger resistance, I guess, is actually 23, or the area between 23 and this high on this big gap up high volume day. So yeah, I think that the first target I would have on CHPT for people who caught this today and are swinging it is for a move to between 23 and 23.80. I think it's definitely realistic with this volume and the way it broke out today. It looks good. Yeah, so Mike here bringing up the TAN ETF. Solars woke up in a huge way today, and they were just not on my radar, unfortunately. Sunrun, huge move. First Solar, huge move. Sun Power, huge move. And I don't know why these weren't on my radar, because they were on my radar pretty recently, and somehow they got off my radar because they actually had really good setups coming into today. Look at this bullish consolidation in Sun Power. Sunrun is a really good trading vehicle. Look at this bullish consolidation in Sunrun. Continuation of the equilibrium area for those stocks. That's all really good stuff. So yeah, TAN being the solar ETF. TAN is also looking good. Gave continuation over $88. Next from our buddy Marty in YouTube. Bought to open small size in pins calls. 8 cross the 21. Yeah, this pins came on our radar a little bit yesterday. Look at this nice break today. Very nice. $54. I love it. Looks great. RSI and MACD are curling up, and I see the gap is from my concern with pins that has not had it as my favorite social media is that last earnings report was atrocious, and that is what is creating that gap, as opposed to Snap, which had an excellent earnings report on the last quarter. Can Snap's earnings later this week move pins? Absolutely. There definitely does tend to be a little bit of a correlation there. But yeah, I mean, pins had a great wake-up day as well. So as much as I really hated that, the last earnings report they had was so bad. There's room, I think, to 58 in this thing. And let's take a quick look at Snap also, since you brought it up. Snap has been in a consolidation for the entire quarter, which is solidly bullish. We've looked at this for a number of trades, but we never really got follow-through on it. So So at this point with Snap, I think we just wait for the earnings report. Yeah, Pins lost followers, lost users. It was really, you can't be that kind of company and have decelerating growth of users. It's really not good. But from a pure technical perspective, the Pins move today is nice. Sebastian asking if I can take a look at Riot. Yeah, I didn't even mention the BITO. I probably should have. So we had the crypto ETF go live today. I love that it's a competitor to Grayscale because I'm not a fan of Grayscale. There was one initial opening drive trade here that we were looking at versus the opening low, which for some reason I don't have the opening 5-minute bar on this chart. I don't know why that happens to me specifically. It's some sort of glitch. The opening low was 40.96, I think. There was a quick opening trade there that I called out, and I was like, it was like 41.15 or something. I was like, if anybody wants, you could try to be long versus opening lows, like 20 cents risk or so. And it gave a really quick rip higher to 42.15, and then it totally failed and broke lows, and you get yourself stopped out on it. And then this thing just looked out of play. And honestly, it wasn't trading great. Considering that this is the first time the CTF has come online, I know it's linked to the futures market. I would have thought that this would have moved a little more today. I would have thought it would have had more volatility. Maybe not. I don't know. I know crypto's right at all-time highs. So this neither confirmed nor denied the two theses that I was looking at with this crypto ETF coming online. On the one hand, I thought it could be a sell the news type of event. On the other hand, I thought maybe this leads to crypto moving higher because now new monies from other places can get involved in crypto that were not able to previously. And it didn't really satisfy me on either of those theses. It didn't work its way higher. We didn't quite get that new all-time high in Bitcoin, and it didn't really result in a sell the news event either, even though it kind of looked like that was going to be the case at about 10:15 or so. It V-bottomed with an inside and up there. So BTO was a little bit on the radar today, along with the other crypto names. With the other crypto names, I felt were just kind of difficult with their daily setups. Riot had been a relatively weak one, so I didn't like it that much. But today, actually, Riot was probably one of the better. Well, Mara's a monster. But Hut, not great price action there in Hut. BT, another little doji day, not great price action there. Mara, phenomenal, increasing volume, though getting too extended. And Riot was solid today. He had a little bit of a break 2 days ago at 29. It retested that 29 and held it to support. So that's exactly what you want to see. So we'll see what type of follow-through you can get in your Riot position if you're still in it. Next from Ben S. UAL. Just looks very out of play. The airlines look out of play ever since Delta reported earnings last week and expressed concerns about gas prices holding down their future earnings. And I think that it's kind of put, if you look at the Jets ETF, I think it's kind of just put this sector out of play. So UAL looks like it doesn't look bearish, doesn't look bullish, it just looks very neutral. So I don't really have too much of an opinion on it. Marty asking what happened to Tesla at 2 p.m. Was it Nikola News, the lawsuit? Pat, do you know the answer to that? Because I have no idea.
It might have been that there was Nikola News.
At 2 o'clock? I don't see anything particular happening at Tesla at 2 o'clock today. I think it was just, this thing is just insanely extended. Look at the move that this thing has just had. This move can't be sustained. It can continue because that's how momentum works, but extension into resistance of all-time highs is usually, where you run into problems, and we're just about there. So, I mean, Tesla's showing some weakness into the close with that degree of extension and rolling over a little bit at 2 o'clock. I don't necessarily think that was news event related. And Nikola, I don't know if this was news. Maybe, Pat, you can tell me, but it was? Okay. I was going to say, this just looks like it's one of these speculative names I woke up with all the other ones. But Pat's saying that there was news at 2 o'clock for Nikola today, but I don't know what it was. Kyler's saying Boeing is looking tasty. Oh, boy. I wish I could agree. I think that the stock never looks good. It's just been in this consolidation for so long. It's a difficult trading vehicle. Had an okay bottoming candle yesterday, but no confirming volume and no extension. So I got nothing to bite onto with this Boeing. Bill here giving us the Nikola news. Nikola allowed to proceed with $2 billion patent lawsuit against Tesla. Okay, that's interesting. Sachin asking about docs. Yeah, so this is another more recent speculative name, but it kind of looks out of play here. You know, finding some support at 70. Didn't really wake up today with a lot of those other speculative type stocks. You know, obviously this thing gave a huge move back here over the summer. It was one of the better names to focus on over the course of the summer. It's not broken, you know, good technical pullback here to 70. I definitely want to see the 70 level hold, but it didn't wake up in any way today that would get me excited about it. So you could try to be long versus the 70 area, or you could wait, I think, for a break of 80, which is where you could get confirmation of higher prices. NEE has earnings tomorrow from Aaron. Yes, NEE chart looks good, but I think just wait for the earnings report at this point. JD, thoughts on AI? Yeah, you know, I'm involved in this Sumo a lot, which has a very similar business to AI. This AI is another, both of those are also in the list of speculative type stocks. This thing also, you know, highs back in February of 177. 177. Now down to $42 at lows here. So again, this just shows what I've been saying. It's just, there's so many examples of this, of the market highs being back in February. Yeah, looking better today. A lot of these names woke up, started to clear some levels. I wanted to see if there was any juice coming in at 3 o'clock like some of those other names. I'm not really seeing it. It looks okay here. I think that you might be looking at a bounce back to 50 resistance, and there's definitely resistance at 50. Sumo is the one that I've been trading pretty actively. This one also looks a lot better. Had an earnings report that certainly wasn't good. There were some guidance issues there, but I didn't think it was like atrocious either compared to what the stock did. The stock basically pre-earning 2 days before earnings was at 22, and the earnings report caused this thing to work its way down to 15. And so I think they overshot that a little bit. V-bottom there, worked its way back up. And now it's also creating a little bit of a bullish consolidation pattern in here. Or maybe it's a neutral consolidation pattern. And there is definitely some resistance at the 1750 from post-earnings. So we'll see if that one's able to break higher as well. That one's definitely a focus for me. Next here from Sebastian. In BABA, there was a big hammer at 10. I assume you're talking about a 5-minute chart. Yeah, I saw that. I don't know what caused it. As the ADMA caught up, it did make a new high, but I felt that it was strong, and I raised my stop loss. Can you give me some thoughts on the decision? You raise your stop, I assume, to this low. So you're violating the third rule that I have. It meets the first two. ADMA catch up and pivot point, but you didn't get the new high until here. So really, based on my rules, I wouldn't have raised my stop until this low, until 1040. So you cheated on the third rule, and the third rule, admittedly, is the one that I occasionally sometimes cheat on myself for money management purposes. So if you didn't believe in it and you really wanted to manage your money and tighten it up, fine. In that case, maybe you consider using 2 stops, half your position there and half your position at low, something like that. Because you are cheating on this first one, you don't want to get shaken out and have it still work. So I don't love it, and the reason why I don't love the cheat on the third rule in this case is because the daily chart I thought was looking so good. Otherwise, I get it. You know, you caught this nice move. You don't want to risk giving it all the way back to lows. You want to tighten your stop up, and luckily it didn't hurt you here no matter what. You know, continued to work. So I hope you caught this all day today. But yeah. Good job being involved is the first thing I would say. And I wouldn't say I hate what you did, but I definitely wouldn't say I love what you did. Somewhere in the middle. Somewhere in the middle. QS is definitely another one of those speculative names. So let's take a look at what this thing did. We were trading it back on these days here in September. There was a great call. I remember I was bid 2251 on September 21st. For a very large bid. I got filled 0 shares on it, and it was a little bit frustrating. That was the low, and then it gave another setup 2 days later off the inside day that also worked out really well. I didn't like that this pulled back below this low. I thought that this pullback was too much. and it kind of took the thing off my radar here in October. But now it should maybe be back on the radar. I like that it gave the close above $25. So the close above $25 today I think is solid. You could look at it to be long maybe tomorrow versus today's low. On the one hand, I'd be a little bit worried about market extension. On the other hand, this name is not extended, and it's in that speculative list of stocks that we saw many of them wake up in a big way today. So we might start seeing continued money rotation into speculative names. I would love to see that. We'll see how it goes. BLDP was a good call out, says Jerry. BLDP. I remember typing this name up in the morning meeting because someone brought it up. I never wrote it down though, and it was a good call out. I like this chart pattern. 2 inside days in a row here at the ADMA caught up, given some sort of continuation. So definitely a chart pattern that I like. What significance is Netflix basically flat off of earnings? I got to look at it a little bit further. It's tough for me to do a real analysis of the companies that report earnings after the close because I got to do the meeting. But Netflix had a huge move into the report, so a lot of times that prices in okay numbers, and it looked like those numbers were okay to good. Yeah, I'm not really sure. We can reassess Netflix in the morning and see where it gaps. A lot of times when they buy these things up big into the report and the report's beat, they end up selling it off. But a lot of the other Q names have been weak. Yes, Zahor, it's in the game planning class. So the 3 rules that I have for trailing stops are in my game planning class in my training program that you have access to, which you can check out. All right, cool. Is there anything else, gang? Did we cover it? It looks like we covered it. Pat, was there anything else in the YouTube? No? Oh, Natalie sneaking in. Natalie loves to sneak in one more. Path. Pat, someone brought up this path today as well. This has been one of those names, and there's a bunch of them, that in theory I always want to be long, and in practice I never can be. Because it's just failed and failed and failed and failed. I even shorted it once and made okay money, even though I want to be long. It's a stock that Kathy's been involved in consistently. She's heavily underwater in it, like she is in a lot of stocks. But like a lot of other speculative names, had a good wake-up day today. It's got to clear this 21 EMA. These moving averages have created so much weight on this stock in particular ever since it IPO'd. So it's a good day one here, a little bit of a volume pickup. Let's get this path above 53 to 55 on a closing basis, and then it's going to start looking real good, I think. Andrew asking if I'm still a Boeing believer. I got out, and now I feel like it's broken unless it sets up. Yeah, I still am. This Boeing is gross today. They broke it down really hard. This was never a technical trade. I've said that from the beginning. This is a trade based on the SPAC merger, and I've studied a lot of these SPAC mergers coming into this, and this is actually typical price action. As painful as it can be for people who might be in this thing from $10, there's just example after example after example of SPACs that perform well actually selling off ahead of the symbol switch. GWH is a recent example. It's not showing me the SPAC pricing, but I can tell you exactly what happened. The vote passed, and on the old symbol, it traded down to as low as $7.25. And then it switched to the new symbol and was at $8.40. And then by the next day, it was at $29. The IRNT also, SPAC, de-SPAC'd, not as bad of a sell-off, goes to $9.36. Switches symbols, upticks a little bit, and then really wakes up. Within 2 days is at a high of $18.41. Within a week is at a high of $30. Within a couple of weeks is at a high of $47.50. Look, I'm not advocating anyone come in and necessarily buy this. Know your own risk, know your own position size, assess the position for yourself. I think based on my analysis that this thing SPACing is going to do something similar to those. The thing that kind of threw me, honestly, was the price action in the last 2 days. into the vote. I was expecting if there was going to be a sell-off to below $9, that it wouldn't have had the rip that it had yesterday. So that's the thing that kind of threw me more than anything else. I had a game plan to add a lot of stock at $8.50. And I kind of threw that game plan out a little bit because of yesterday's price action, which in turn caused me some pain today. But again, this was never a technical trade. I still believe in the idea, though obviously it's painful for today, and we'll see how it works out, and you have to manage your own risk on what you do. But I think that, you know, at $9, it's going to have WeWork worth $8 billion as a valuation, something like that, and they've actually have a path to profitability now by potentially even 2022, and we're seeing all these other speculative names give these runs, and most people still don't know about it. I never saw any announcement on CNBC that WeWork is officially a public company and is having a symbol switch on Thursday. It still doesn't seem to really be out there. The volume on this still seems to be kind of low to me. But again, it was never a technical trade. Assess your own risk. But I still think that this is going to come together for me. But we'll see how it plays out. We'll see how it plays out. We'll definitely know better by Friday. Jerry S. saying Mosaic is setting up. Yeah, Mosaic's got a beautiful bull flag here. Another material name that's definitely worth paying attention to for continuation. Huh. Nice price, Gabriel. Good stuff, man. Okay. Yeah, Andrew. You know, definitely pay attention to it. You know, could give you a setup for a re-entry. All right, gang. I am going to end the afternoon meeting there. I hope everyone had a good day. I thought today was a little bit tricky, but we still had some good call-outs. Right, Alibaba was solid. CHPT was solid. And it's an interesting market environment with this strength and some of these speculative names starting to wake up a little bit. So that is all. I'll see everybody tomorrow. Oh. Never turned off the YouTube.